So I'm out here at one of my favourite spots in Dorset. Unlike pretty much every other adventure on the channel, we're actually in walking distance of my house. You can possibly just see Bournemouth behind me. It's just at the beginning of spring. Even though it's something like a little smaller scale than what we usually do, that's kind of been a big change for the channel this year. We're kind of trying to film some of these sort of smaller things. And this route, this area of Dorset has always meant so much for me. So I figured this had to be an episode.
Can I just take this opportunity to say I really quite dislike being on camera, or at least I don't like being on camera when it's me operating the camera and I know I'm not going to be able to get a particularly good sort of image quality. I'm not trying to be a granddad here, but I have really avoided doing the whole YouTube face in the thumbnail. Are we not all kind of sick of that now? But anyway, here we find ourselves. So let's roll an intro. So we are Forest Archaic Collective, and as well as making jungle drum and bass, we've followed ancient sites across Europe and beyond, whether it's Neolithic standing stones, Roman arches, or Romanesque churches. If it's ancient, we're into it. But goodness knows how long we've been ruminating on doing this as an episode. It's a great one for spring when the weather is turning and it's light much earlier. I just knew that as soon as we actually started doing episodes from Dorset and England, this would have to be one. And yeah, it's not a usual thing, but I'm having a go at appearing in front of camera. We usually like to do things collectively any chance we get, but yeah, it's just me on this one. So let's wind back. It's an early start. All I ever have for these are shots of water going into a cafetiere. Apart from the fact I'm mostly moving around the house in the dark, I don't know what you want from me. I'm not going to give you a shot of me pulling my jeans up. We've mentioned this already in recent episodes. It's one of a few consolation prizes you get in winter in Bournemouth. These incredible sunrises and sunsets over the beach. But they are fleeting. At this point, the sunsets had already gone from over the beach, moving behind the trees and buildings, and it was only mid-March. The sunrises would be visible over the bay for maybe a couple more weeks. Usually by Easter, they're out of sight unless you're at the extreme ends of the beach. However, as I get walking to the west, it's all too easy to dither and keep turning around to snap more of the sun, but I actually have a boat to catch. Not that the walk here on a morning like this is not an incredible experience, only made mildly mundane by the fact I've done this so many times over the years. If this wasn't my hometown, this would be up there with anything from the sunrise on Zakynthos to Korčula, or just any number that I've caught, over the years. While sharing the promenade with joggers and dog walkers, there is something particularly satisfying about anything done before 7 a.m. It may be no surprise that if I'm not up and out filming something, I'm not exactly crushing a Sigma grind set at 4 a.m. But this all feels like bonus time gained. I mean, it's hard to think of much I could be doing at this time that is better. So, round the corner at the end of Bournemouth Beach, down the long road to Sandbanks, Brownsea Island on the right. I'm overdue to head back there and see if I'm wrong, but Brownsea Island, I've always found it a bit disappointing. Not because the sea isn't brown, I think we can take that as a net positive, but just compared with the excitement of getting out there on a small boat and the stories of the first ever scout camp taking place there with Baden Powell, the island is not that exciting. When you're in between the trees, you could just be in any bit of woodland, pretty much anywhere, and the whole island is trees. That's the whole thing, basically. Anyway, it's symptomatic of all the places close to home. No matter where you end up living, there's going to be places that are fine for just like a low-stakes afternoon walk for maybe 45 minutes, but, well, they just don't give you that feeling of really making it out into the world. A lot of the New Forest is like this. It's nice to a point, but it's not a destination I'm super eager to get back to, except perhaps in autumn. There's just so many places that are more exciting to be. However, where we're heading today, this is somewhere really remarkable. Somewhere that even if you travelled from the other side of the world, this would still be a highlight. At the same time, it's England, and yeah, I can walk there from my house if I've got good weather and a free day. So, nearly there. Just a quick chuckle at the multi-million-pound house that looks like it was designed by a 5-year-old, and then chuckle extra hard at how much it must make everyone on Millionaires Row here so annoyed to have this ruining their aesthetic. And we're at the Chain Ferry. A handful of weeks and a couple of episodes back, we were here on a very different day. And whenever you're filming an episode, you always need more footage than you think. So I'm getting various shots and just feeling this pang of shame. Of all the places I could travel, this is the one place that I'm genuinely a local, so it would have been nice to be able to sort of blend in, with this detached demeanour of, it's just the chain ferry, yawn, how routine. And instead, I'm having to look like a complete tourist, like,
gee golly gosh, mister, I had never seen a fancy boat like this before. Hot diggity, Lord have mercy.
Anyway, yeah, no point pretending this crossing isn't something a little different and fun. And hey, it wasn't that long ago. I remember needing cash on you was a feature. The worry that you might need to head back all the way to Tesco Express maybe a mile and a half ago. But actually paying a pound coin here for the last time, it would seem. At the very least, I didn't film a POV of walking on because, really, who cares? But stepping off the other side, it's Studland Beach. Now, on this occasion, I wasn't going to be there very long, but a couple of times in the last few years, I've walked to Sandbanks on a morning like this, got the first ferry, and then just slipped my shoes off and taken a walk along Studland Beach. Usually barely a human in sight, and it is devastatingly tranquil. I can scarcely recall being so much at peace. The sea lapping against my feet. I realise it's generally considered a risk to have your feet out there on the internet, but I don't know. I don't think I'm getting the call to do any foot modelling anytime soon. So yeah, it's a strong recommend. If you can get an early morning with this bright sunshine, take a walk down Studland Beach before everyone else. Now, stupid though this feels, considering we're out in this peaceful, gorgeous part of Dorset, just take it easy. You're away from the bustle of the city. Well, in the case of BCP, the unusually large conurbation of 3 towns not yet recognised as a city. But actually, I did need to be putting my best foot forward for reasons I will explain in a little bit. So rather than taking the sand of Studland Beach, which would slow things down somewhat, I got moving on the Pool Bay side. This is an incredible landscape. Pool Bay is either the largest or the second largest natural harbour in the world. No citation needed, you get the gist. And while it has quite a tidal range, on this southern side there's a scatter of islets and natural beaches. Shell Bay in particular, it's just a real Enid Blyton of a place to explore and almost entirely devoid of people. One of my best memories from the Studland Peninsula, it was 2020, just take a minute to try and get yourself back in that headspace. We'd been in lockdown for however long, and the announcement came that you were allowed to head out, risks and asterisks attached. And basically the first place we went was out here. And as you might imagine, having been limited to a small radius around our flat and, looking across the bay to this landscape but not actually being able to visit, to get out here again on what was a gorgeous day, and I think it was early May, it just felt like breathing air for the first time. Just the most incredible feeling of emancipation and freedom to be out in Dorset again. This shot of the rusted out boat is still one of my favourite from that day. I don't know if it's still there. It's likely not in the best shape after 6 more years of salt water and winds. And this is the proper beginning of the trail, a swath of remarkably unspoilt Dorset stretching out ahead of us.
Just a fair warning, this trail, and particularly the beginning bit, it stays pretty waterlogged most of the year, unless you're here in summer and it has not rained for a while. You're probably better off sticking to the road for just a little bit longer. It'll be quicker at least.
I've seen this stone here marked as a standing stone. It might be, it's a little small, but there it is. As you've been gathering, this walk means far more to me than just a nice Dorset walk. This is why I came with Jen early on a trip that was not a date, but looking back, it's like, oh yeah, that was kind of a date. So as you can imagine, it means a huge amount to us.
Yeah, and on that first trip with Jen and a couple of friends, I took essentially this shot. It's the tree on the left there is not as well differentiated. Now the gorse has kind of come up a little bit, but yeah, this is always the scene I see in my head when I think back to that day.
And a bit of, hey, I can see my house from here, with Bournemouth reappearing on the horizon. I don't know how this compares to where you are. I grew up just near the South Downs, which are lovely, but centuries of sheep grazing have reduced it to just short grass, which sits as a monoculture over most of it. There's just something so much more enchanting to me about this landscape here. I find this so much more exciting, and the fact that you can get out here with relative ease. You can walk or cycle. There's even a bus stop just right at the head of the trail.
Just as it's starting to get a little hotter as the sun rises, you're starting to get that sort of warm, perfumed smell coming off the gorse. It's just like a little hint of coconut. Something Jen says always reminds her of me, which is like, oh, the really spiky, hostile plant that's kind of invasive and impossible to kill unless you burn it. Thanks, honey. Yeah, love you too.
And then, appearing over the brow of the hill, it's not very well differentiated in the landscape just yet, but give it a moment. So climbing the hill and remembering it's much more severe than I anticipated, getting out of breath, and this is Aggleston Rock.
Oh, and just look at that. So a bit out of breath from the hill. I've been here a bunch of times over the years. Sometimes when the light isn't quite what you'd hope for. This morning is just perfect. Just look at it.
It's really quite unlike anything else in Dorset. I had long assumed this was a glacial erratic that had been dumped here however many tens of thousands of years ago, but it is in fact part of the local bedrock that became exposed as the ground eroded away. You can see bits of the same stone in the landscape nearby. It's red because it's an iron-rich sandstone. And yeah, it just feels like a slice of Australia just sitting nonchalantly in the Dorset countryside. You can see older photos of this when it looked more kind of anvil-shaped. It partially collapsed in 1970. Nowadays, it's quite a popular free climbing spot. I have shot up and down there a few times in the past, but actually, I kind of need to be getting going. So yeah, today I was going with a bit of a change of plan. If we'd headed east, we'd be at Old Harry Rocks, eventually. Another incredibly special Dorset place to be, but a pretty massive detour for this route, and we can't fit everything into a single day. Looking west at this part of Dorset towards where we're heading, you might get the impression that as long as you're not too squeamish about some underbrush, you could head in almost any direction you like. But if you do that, you will hit the water table much sooner than you expect and find yourself having to backpedal considerably. I am, of course, speaking from experience. In fact, the route between here and Wareham is actually a bit straitjacketed. There's numerous roads traversing up-down, but only a couple of routes left-right. And there was another stop I wanted to hit, but it would kind of end up with you being on the verge of a 60-mile-an-hour road or taking a wildly unnecessary detour. And so you either have to skirt this golf course. On a previous occasion, I got so annoyed that I couldn't just get where I was trying to go. I attempted to hop some barbed wire and, well, yeah, there you go. There is a southern route through some woodland, and it's fine. Yeah, it's fine, but there was a much better idea that I'm surprised I hadn't tried when doing this route previously. And yeah, I had to keep moving. You see, the target for the end of the day was the town of Wareham, but more specifically, this coffee shop. The Goat is a great coffee spot and a reward for covering the distance, but it's not without its risk. You see, years ago, I was attempting pretty much this exact route. Early chain ferry across to Studland, Aggleston Rock, walk across the Purbeck countryside, and then coffee in Wareham. This is back when it was Coffee Saloon. I'm still a bit cut up that that's folded now. Yeah, there is still one in Canford Cliffs. It's okay, but they've changed blends. It's just not how I remember. Anyway, I got into Wareham for I think it was about 10 past 3, and it was closed. Took all of my self-control not to drop to my knees on the pavement and just do the full Charlton Heston Planet of the Apes thing. So yeah, lesson learned. Whatever I do, I've got to leave enough time to get into Wareham before 3. So, leaving Aggleston behind, ducking across the main road and up onto this footpath, and it was onto the ridge, and just absolute scenes. I mean, incredible views across the whole bay, and even better, we get to stay on this for a while. It's basically a dead straight line to where we're going, which a lot of you already know, but out of towners, it's just going to keep getting better from here. We're up on Aylwood Down, which is this big long ridge that's pretty much contiguous as far as the White Nothe. It's part of two that form the dramatic landscape of the Purbecks. And fun enough, implausible though it might seem when you're here, this chalk ridge, which terminates abruptly at Ballard Down, simply folds underwater to re-emerge as the Needles on the Isle of Wight and keeps threading across the Isle. On the other side of the ridge, a gorgeous patchwork of fields and small villages, the Church of Kingston just visible in the distance. There's some barrows here. With the sun high in the sky, they don't leap out from the rest of the grassy ridge. These two are the most prominent, but there's more beyond that I didn't spot at first. And I didn't actually catch if there was a footpath down, but if you head all the way off the ridge to the north, just tucked in the woods is Rempstone Stone Circle. Dorset doesn't have many standing stones, and Rempstone is pretty slight. You would never find this if you didn't know exactly where to look. But it's noteworthy because if you head east from here along the southern counties, you really won't find more standing stones or megalithic structures till Kent, basically. Someone from Megalithic Portal is already typing to dispute that. Yeah, I will give a tip of the cap to the long stone on the Isle of Wight, but that is in fact the altered remains of a long barrow, so it's not quite your standard standing stone. But yeah, since there's an increasing abundance as you head west into Devon and Cornwall, but a real paucity across Hampshire and the Sussexes. Oh, and hey, for all those who believe that stone circles are a source of energy, I guess this is kind of a last gas station for 200 miles kind of situation.
So this seems as good a time as any to talk about our Micro Adventures playlist. I say a lot of the stuff on the channel, has been further afield. We are still working through a backlog. We've got episodes from Albania that are still to go up, from Switzerland, some around Germany, Spain, all sorts. But it is also nice to start to do some stuff a bit closer to home. I say close to home, I'm still talking things like Brecon or up to Glasgow. So, not exactly like today where we can literally get pizza delivered from the same place we would at home. But it's just nice to kind of have like some different episodes. And as you can see, this part of Dorset is like so beautiful. Like, this is one of my favourite places in the world. No matter how far I go, I'm always kind of comparing it to like, what does it feel like to this? So it's really nice to finally actually get around to doing that. We are going to do a big series on the Jurassic Coast. That's definitely going to happen. So yeah, more of this in the Micro Adventures playlist. You'd be really helping us out to just let that run. And thanks.
Then over the brow of the ridge, and all of a sudden, there it was. It's kind of amusing that from this first glimpse, it was still quite a distance to actually get level with it. It was about another half an hour before I was overlooking Corfe Castle. This is, of course, another major Dorset highlight, a ruined Norman keep. We were also here as part of our Cosy Dorset Pubs episode, and I've really picked the wrong year to start actually doing episodes from Dorset. I've got loads of shots from all angles of Corfe Castle from previous years, but this year specifically it's covered, well, okay, it's not covered, but it's having some work done. Still, a stunning place to be in a breathtaking landscape. I'm just going to put this here. Years ago, I was filming around sundown from this hill, and I just accidentally managed to time the most Dorset shot ever. Registered trademark. The worst part is, there's just no chance I'd be able to repeat this, at least not without considerable time and difficulty. I mean, if you just pan up a little bit wrong or slightly too soon, bear in mind this is at sundown, so you really only get one crack at this per day. Anyway, there it is. So, lots and lots of shots that look like they belong on a box of fudge. I descended into the village. I wasn't going into Corfe Castle on this day, but what I always suggest people do, this is the entrance to the castle, and this is the National Trust tea room that's attached. If you sit in their garden, this is the view you get. It's perfect. Well, okay, on years without the scaffolding, it's perfect. And you can enjoy it for the price of an espresso. In years gone by, we'd had a cream tea here. Very nice to do, but we didn't need to be too fancy today. Just this espresso vanity shot. The rest of the village is a real pleasure to explore. It's somewhat hurt by having most of the Swanage traffic having to funnel through here. I'm not sure where you could put a bypass in, but it would transform the village. I have spent ample time there, so I didn't need to reshoot all of that today. Just quickly grabbed some supplies from this local store, which is pretty great, and on we go. Now, the next stretch was going to be a little less photographically interesting. These back roads are preferable to cutting across country and encountering the water table. Years ago now, this is exactly what I did. I was following a trail across open ground, kind of somewhere around here, I think. And there was this kind of trail, you could see it was trodden down by numerous feet, but it was kind of petering out, and then it just stopped at the river, which, if I recall, rather than just taking the L and doubling back for 20 minutes, I just waded across up to past my knees. That was really dumb. You only really attempt that once. Anyway, to get where I was going, I needed to be heading north, and courtesy of the nice shop at Corfe Castle, I had some nice local brews to keep me company. Started with this. It describes itself as an IPA. Definitely turned out to be more A than P. It's pretty heavy and dark. These gents were pretty striking, or maybe it's a breed where both male and female have horns, but yeah, not every day. Next, and entirely appropriately, I feel, the Agglestone. This didn't actually claim to be anything, but it was much lighter than the Crumple, so it certainly felt more refreshing. This is about the point where either the golf course route or the woodland route sort of meet up. I really love this landscape. I don't know, it doesn't exactly make me feel like I'm in the Mediterranean. I don't really know what else this feels like. It just doesn't feel like I'm stuck in the same place week after week. It has a completely unique charm to it. And Sleep Heath, let's go. If you consider this a bit of a local tip, I mean, I say local, I'm sure there's someone in the comments like, it's pronounced Slippay. This is just a nice walk, free parking, a great slice of Dorset, never busy. Jen and I actually popped to Arn, a short way away, the previous weekend, and while it was nice, the RSPB has started charging for entry rather than just for parking as they used to. So now it's £7 per person just for an outdoor walk in Dorset. I don't have some big beef with the RSPB. I hope they do well and protect some birds and stuff. But this is one of the few bits of the Dorset countryside which is now essentially paywalled to drive subs. So yeah, by all means, go to Arn. The little beach there is kind of cute. And yeah, feel free to support the RSPB. But maybe just come to Sleep Heath, which is free. And I find it an even more rewarding part of Dorset. The view of Corfe Castle off in the distance. I just like this very, very much. And it's never busy.
I mentioned the Micro Adventures playlist. We're definitely going to have to make a Dorset playlist as well. As well as the Jurassic Coast. There's like a ton of stuff locally that I just need to get out and make into episodes. I say, the funny thing is, it's not that I've not been filming these places. I've been filming a lot of these places for about 7 years. I was just like holding back because I just wanted to get it right. Like I wanted to get the best footage I could and not just like spoil it. So at some point we will definitely produce a Dorset playlist as well with places like this and lots more as well.
Oh, and save the most refreshing one till last, though weirdly it's just called Stairs. Bit of a weird name for a cider, but very tasty nonetheless. The next bit I didn't film as much as I had to make up some time, and also this wasn't a very interesting stretch as you're just closing in on Wareham. Final straight, there it is. I was jogging at this point. I would have run faster, but I was too sore. And trying not to explode through the door, I strode into the Goat. It's 6 minutes to 3, and they actually close at 4. I did see that on Google, but it's an independent place in a small town. I was a bit like, I'll believe that when I see it. So my jogging was somewhat unnecessary, but I could just feel my character arc having kind of that little Xbox notification popping up in the bottom third. The trauma of not making it last time was healing thanks to this delicious macchiato. I was telling my backstory to the guy behind the counter, how I've been walking since before 6 a.m. and what happened last time, and he was a bit like, okay. He didn't seem too fussed that I was clearly closing out a 3-act structure of my personal screenplay, but we made it. Though, with the early start, and even with minimal breaks, I didn't stop off for very long in Corfe Castle. It's always going to be pretty tight to get to Wareham for 3 p.m. Unless you're just power walking, certainly not taking any video. It's kind of a mish, but we managed it. According to maps, pretty much bang on 20 miles by the time we finished up at the station. So more micro adventures to come, more Dorset to come, but as a more humble start to the brighter months of 2026, not out in the wider world just yet, just taking a walk from my house to one of my favourite places anywhere. What a privilege to have this here. So as we mentioned, we've got more coming from Germany, Albania, Montenegro and Italy. That's all coming pretty soon, so there's ample stuff in the playlists to be seeing in the meantime. If you enjoyed the music in the background, that's ours. We make all the music for these episodes, and you can catch it on bandcamp.com. If you want to support us, that's kind of our Patreon, so that's the best place to do it. Also, these episodes, it's actually nice that this one was only from a few weeks ago, but these often take a while to make. Some of those that are coming out soon have been sitting in the can for close to 2 years, whereas on Blue Sky, we can be kind of posting more of what we're doing on a sort of week-by-week basis. So yes, follow us there. And yes, please do hit the notification bell. I know this is just one of those things that YouTubers say. Thing is, a lot of the time YouTube just won't show our stuff to people. We've got 5,000 subscribers at time of writing, and yet YouTube's barely showing that to 200 people. I have people asking me all the time, like, hey, how come we haven't seen any of your stuff recently? I'm like, no, it's going up. It's just not making it to anyone. So yeah, if you don't hit that bell, you'll probably just never hear from us again. I don't know. Anyway, yes, please subscribe, and thank you so much, and we'll catch you very soon.